The massive holographic projection blazed across the darkness of space, its light reaching 10,000 different worlds scattered throughout the galaxy. On each planet, alien beings stopped their daily activities to witness what they believed would be the most important broadcast in galactic history. Admiral Cale Thorne's battle-scarred face appeared on every screen, his cold blue eyes reflecting the satisfaction of a job well done. Deep scars ran across his left cheek, souvenirs from countless battles that had brought him to this moment. His uniform was pristine, decorated with medals that told the story of the Vorthak Empire's rise to power. Citizens of the cosmos, his voice echoed through the void, carried by quantum transmissions that reached the farthest corners of known space. Today marks the end of the greatest threat our galaxy has ever known. The human plague has been eradicated. Earth burns no more. The broadcast switched to footage that made alien viewers across the galaxy cheer with wild celebration. Earth's blue marble appearance was gone, replaced by a burning orange sphere. Cities that had once touched the clouds were now crumbling ruins. The camera zoomed in to show what appeared to be humanity's final moments, people running through streets filled with fire and smoke, their screams cutting through the audio feed. On the water world of Aquanus, the fish-like Hydrians danced in their underwater cities. On the desert planet Zerion, the sand-dwelling dune walkers emerged from their burrows to howl at their 3 moons. Even the peaceful tree people of Vidania swayed their branches in what could only be described as joy. For centuries, humanity had been the galaxy's nightmare. They were the species that refused to surrender, the ones who turned every defeat into a learning experience. When the crystalline collective tried to enslave them, humans learned to shatter crystal technology. When the hive mind attempted to absorb them, humans developed mental barriers that drove the collective insane. Every alien empire that had tried to conquer Earth had learned the same hard lesson. Humans were dangerous not because they were the strongest or the smartest, but because they simply would not give up. Now, finally, that nightmare was over. But in the cold depths of space, far from any star system that appeared on galactic maps, a different scene was unfolding. The human vessel Silent Dawn drifted through an asteroid field, its advanced stealth technology making it invisible to all known scanning methods. The ship was sleek and black, designed not for beauty but for survival. On the bridge, Commander Jinho stood with his arms crossed, watching the Vorthak broadcast with eyes that showed no emotion. His dark hair was cut short in military fashion, and his young face carried the weight of impossible decisions. At 35, he was one of the youngest fleet commanders in human history, promoted not for his experience but for his ability to think like the enemy. Beside him, Navigation Officer Unbai maintained her position at the control panel, her fingers dancing across holographic displays that showed the locations of 97 other hidden human ships. Her face was a mask of calm professionalism, but Jinho could see the fire burning in her dark eyes. She had been born on Earth, had walked through the parks of New Sol and watched sunsets over the Han River. That world was now nothing but burning rock and space dust. They believed their own lies, Jinho whispered, his voice barely audible over the hum of the ship's life support systems. Unbai turned from her displays, her expression never changing. 8 billion ghosts, she replied softly. Let them celebrate. They have no idea what's coming. The truth was something that would have shocked every celebrating alien in the galaxy. Earth was indeed gone, burned to nothing by Vorthak weapons that could crack planets. But the planet they had destroyed was empty, evacuated months before the attack. What the galaxy had witnessed was not humanity's end, but the greatest magic trick in history. Through the bridge's transparent aluminum windows, Jinho could see other ships hidden among the asteroids. Each one carried survivors, refugees from a world that no longer existed. There was the medical ship Mercy, packed with families and children. The factory ship Builder worked constantly to manufacture weapons and supplies. The research vessel Discovery continued humanity's scientific work, developing new technologies that would soon surprise their enemies. In total, 100 human ships drifted through space like ghosts, carrying the last 8 billion members of their species. They had no homeworld, no safe harbor to return to. They were nomads now, wanderers in the darkness between stars. But they were not defeated. Jinho touched a control on his command chair, and the images from across the human fleet appeared on his screen. Captains and crew members from every ship looked back at him, their faces showing the same mixture of grief and determination. Friends, he said quietly, the galaxy thinks we are dead. Let them keep believing that lie for a while longer. Dead men cast no shadows, leave no footprints, make no sound when they move through the night. On his tactical display, Unbai highlighted several Vorthak supply routes that passed through unguarded space. Their celebration will make them careless, she reported. We can begin operations within the week. Jinho nodded slowly. The Vorthak Empire thought they had won the greatest victory in galactic history. Soon, they would learn that they had only awakened something far more dangerous than the humans they thought they had destroyed. In the depths of space, humanity's funeral had become their rebirth. 3 months before the galaxy celebrated humanity's death, Dr. Minute sat alone in his small laboratory aboard Research Station Omega, a facility that officially did not exist. The station floated in the empty space between Mars and Jupiter, hidden inside a hollowed-out asteroid that looked like thousands of others in the belt. For 15 years, Minute had worked here in secret, listening to alien communications that crossed through human space. His fingers moved quickly across the quantum decryption device, a machine that could break most alien codes within hours. The Vorthak transmission had been difficult, taking him 3 full days to crack. As the alien symbols slowly changed into human words on his screen, his blood turned cold. The message was simple and terrifying. The Vorthak Empire had decided that humanity was too dangerous to exist. They were sending their entire war fleet to Earth. Not to conquer or enslave, but to completely destroy every human being in the galaxy. The attack would begin in exactly 72 hours. Minute-Ho's hands shook as he reached for his emergency communicator. His voice cracked when he spoke into the device that would send his message through secret channels to Lunar Base. Code Red Alpha, he whispered. They're coming for Earth. Full planetary annihilation. Estimated arrival 72 hours. The message traveled through space faster than light, carried by quantum transmitters that the aliens did not know existed. Within minutes, it reached the hidden command center buried 3 kilometers beneath the surface of Earth's moon. Admiral Sung Minute had been expecting this call for 20 years. At 65, he was the oldest serving officer in the human fleet, and he had spent half his life preparing for this exact moment. His gray hair was cut short, and his brown eyes held the weight of impossible decisions. When the emergency alarm sounded in Lunar Base, he was already walking toward the war room. Around the massive circular table, Earth's greatest military minds gathered within minutes. These were not the admirals and generals that appeared in news broadcasts. These were the shadow leaders, the people who planned for humanity's darkest possibilities. Each face showed the same expression: they were afraid, but not surprised. Fleet Captain So Young was the first to speak. At 42, she commanded more ships than any other human in history, though most people on Earth had never heard her name. Her black hair was pulled back in a tight ponytail, and her uniform bore no decorations that would reveal her true importance. Operation Ghost Protocol, she said simply, her voice steady and calm. We always knew this day might come. Those 4 words activated humanity's greatest secret. For 50 years, since the first contact with hostile aliens, human leaders had been preparing for this possibility. Deep space colonies had been established in hidden locations throughout the galaxy. Transport ships had been built and disguised as ordinary cargo vessels. Emergency supplies had been stored in secret locations. Everything was ready for the day when humanity might need to disappear. Within 1 hour of Minute-Ho's warning, the plan began. On Earth, families received mysterious messages telling them to report to specific locations for emergency evacuation drills. Most people thought it was just another government exercise. They had no idea they were about to become refugees from their own planet. The transport ships looked exactly like the cargo vessels that moved goods between Earth cities every day. But inside, they had been converted to carry people instead of products. Families climbed aboard what they thought were temporary shelters, bringing only what they could carry in small bags. Captain J. Minute commanded one of these disguised transports. His ship looked like a simple food delivery vessel, but it could carry 3,000 people to the hidden colony on Kepler 442b. As families filled his ship, children asked their parents when they would return home. The parents smiled and said soon, not knowing they would never see Earth again. Chief Engineer Kyung-ho worked from his secret command center beneath New Tokyo, watching as his greatest creation came to life. For 10 years, he had been installing holographic projectors throughout Earth's major cities. The projectors were hidden in buildings, underground tunnels, and even inside statues in public parks. When Kyung-ho activated the system, Earth cities became elaborate illusions. To anyone watching from space, everything looked completely normal. People appeared to walk through the streets. Vehicles moved along the highways. Lights turned on and off in office buildings. But it was all fake, created by thousands of holographic projectors working together. The real people were gone, evacuated to ships that were already traveling toward hidden colonies. Earth had become a movie set, designed to fool the most advanced alien sensors in the galaxy. In the Lunar Base Command Center, Admiral Sung-minute watched the evacuation progress on dozens of screens. 8 billion people, the entire human population, were disappearing from Earth without leaving a trace. The transport ships used routes that avoided all known alien patrol areas. Their destinations were colonies that had been secretly established over decades. As the last transport ship left Earth's atmosphere, carrying a group of children from a school in Africa, Sung-minute turned to his officers. His old face showed the pain of what they were about to do. The hardest part, he told them quietly, is letting them think they won. In 72 hours, the Vorthak fleet would arrive to find a planet full of illusions. They would destroy an empty world and declare victory over humanity. The galaxy would celebrate the death of their greatest fear. But humanity would still be alive, scattered among the stars, waiting in the darkness for their chance to return. The Vorthak supply convoy Dominion's pride had been the pride of their merchant fleet. 12 massive ships, each one the size of a small city, carried enough weapons and food to supply an entire star system for a year. The convoy traveled the same route every month, moving supplies from the manufacturing worlds near Kepler to the military bases around Vega. It was considered the safest shipping lane in Vorthak space. Commander Yaktar had been tracking the convoy from his patrol ship for 3 days. The reptilian officer was known for his careful attention to detail, which was why Fleet Command had chosen him to investigate the recent disappearances. His ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the exact coordinates where Dominion's pride should have been waiting. Instead, he found nothing but empty space. Yaktar's yellow eyes widened as he stared through the viewing window at the star field ahead. Where 12 enormous ships should have been floating in formation, there was only the cold darkness between stars. No wreckage. No energy signatures. No trace that anything had ever been there. His second-in-command, a nervous creature named Vez from the Trilarian species, checked the sensor readings for the 5th time. The Trilarians were known throughout the galaxy for their excellent eyesight and attention to detail, but Vez's 3 eyes showed nothing but confusion. "Sir, there's nothing here," Vez said, his voice shaking slightly. "The sensors show empty space. It's like they never existed." Yaktar moved to the sensor station and examined the readings himself. The convoy had been scheduled to arrive at these coordinates exactly 4 to 7 hours ago. According to the shipping records, they had left the Kepler system on schedule. But somewhere between the two star systems, 12 massive ships carrying thousands of crew members had simply vanished. "Run a full spectrum scan," Yaktar ordered. "Look for anything. Debris, energy residue, ion trails. Something that big doesn't just disappear." While his crew worked frantically at their stations, Yaktar did not know that less than 50 kilometers away, a human ship watched his every move. The Shadow's Edge was completely invisible to Vorthak sensors, hidden by stealth technology that was decades ahead of anything the aliens had developed. Captain Woojin stood on his bridge, watching the confused Vorthak patrol through his advanced viewing screens. At 38, he was one of the most experienced raiders in the human ghost fleet. His dark hair showed streaks of early gray, earned from months of dangerous missions behind enemy lines. His crew of 25 humans had become experts at making enemy ships disappear without a trace. "They look confused," said Lieutenant Minitsu from the sensor station, a slight smile on her young face. "Good," Woojin replied. "Confusion is our greatest weapon now." The Shadow's Edge was one of 50 human ships that had been converted for stealth operations after the evacuation of Earth. Each ship was small, fast, and completely invisible to alien technology. They moved through Vorthak space like sharks in dark water, taking what they needed and vanishing before anyone knew they had been there. Engineering Officer Ha Young's voice came through the communication system from the lower decks. "Captain, cargo transfer to Ghost Base 7 is complete. No trace signatures left behind. The base now has enough supplies for 6 months." "Excellent work," Woojin replied. "Let them wonder what happened to their precious convoy." The raid had taken exactly 4 hours. While the Dominion's Pride convoy was traveling between star systems, the human ships had surrounded them using a carefully planned ambush. The Vorthak crews never had time to send a distress signal. The supplies were transferred to hidden human bases, and the empty ships were sent into the nearby sun, leaving no evidence behind. This was the 14th successful raid that Woojin's crew had completed in just 2 months. Across 17 different star systems, similar attacks were happening every week. Human ghost ships struck without warning, took what they needed, and disappeared like they had never been there. On the ice-covered world of Vorthak Prime, Admiral Cale Thorne sat in his office reading reports that made no sense. The room was cold and dark, matching his mood as he studied the growing list of missing ships. In just 2 months, 43 Vorthak vessels had vanished without explanation. Supply convoys, patrol ships, even a few warships had simply disappeared. Thorn was the military leader who had planned the attack on Earth. He had watched their planet burn and had personally given the order to broadcast humanity's destruction across the galaxy. The victory had made him a hero to his people and had earned him promotion to Supreme Fleet Commander. But now, something was hunting his ships. His aide, a young Vorthak officer named Drex, brought him the latest report. "Sir, we've lost contact with the mining operation in the asteroid belt of System 47. 3 ships and their escort disappeared 6 hours ago." Thorn studied the report carefully. The attacks were too precise, too well planned to be the work of pirates or rebels. Whoever was doing this knew exactly where Vorthak ships would be and when they would be most vulnerable. They struck fast and left no witnesses. "The pattern is too perfect," Thorn muttered, his scarred face showing worry for the first time since the war began. "Too surgical. This isn't random piracy." He stood up and walked to the large window that looked out over his frozen homeworld. The celebration of humanity's death was still continuing on many worlds, but Thorn was beginning to have doubts. "Ghosts don't steal supplies," he said quietly to his aide. "But dead men don't either." In the darkness of space, the human ghost fleet continued their hunt, striking where the enemy least expected and vanishing like shadows in the night. Commander Yakhtar had been searching empty space for 3 weeks, following reports of strange energy readings in the outer regions of the galaxy. His patrol consisted of 4 ships, enough to handle any pirates or rebels they might encounter. The mission was supposed to be routine: investigate some unusual sensor data and file a report. The asteroid field looked like thousands of others scattered throughout the galaxy. Chunks of rock and ice drifted slowly through space, left over from some ancient planetary collision. Most of these fields were completely empty, home to nothing but mining operations that had been abandoned decades ago. But Yakhtar's sensors were detecting something that should not have been there. "Sir, I'm reading massive energy signatures from inside the asteroid field," reported his sensor officer, a young Vorthak named Kelm. "The readings are off the scale. Something big is hiding in there." Yakhtar studied the display with growing confusion. The energy patterns looked like those from a major military installation, but that was impossible. This region of space was thousands of light-years from any inhabited system. No one would build a base in such a remote location. "Take us closer," he ordered. "But keep the weapons ready. This might be a rebel stronghold." As his patrol ships moved deeper into the asteroid field, the energy readings grew stronger. What they found made Yakhtar's heart stop beating for several seconds. Hidden among the floating rocks was a military base unlike anything he had ever seen. The structure was built into the largest asteroids, with docking bays, weapon platforms, and defensive shields that glowed with blue energy. Ships moved in and out of the hidden bays like busy insects around a hive. But these were not Vorthak ships. They were sleek, black vessels that his computer could not identify. And walking around on the observation decks, clearly visible through the transparent barriers, were creatures that should not have existed anywhere in the universe. "Humans? Impossible," Yakhtar whispered, his yellow eyes wide with shock. "The humans are extinct. We destroyed their planet. We watched it burn." But there they were, alive and very much active. The base was clearly operational, with hundreds of people working at various tasks. This was not some hidden colony of survivors. This was a full military installation, complete with weapons that could destroy his small patrol in seconds. Yakhtar reached for his communications controls with shaking hands. Fleet Command needed to know about this immediately. "All units, emergency transmission to Vorthak Prime," he began. "We have discovered a human military base in Sector 7743. Repeat, the humans are not extinct. They are." The transmission cut short as space around his ship suddenly filled with human fighters. The sleek black craft moved with incredible speed, their weapons already charging. Yakhtar had just enough time to see the lead fighter's identification marking before his world exploded in light. Captain Junsu led the attack from his fighter Phoenix Wing, diving toward the Vorthak patrol ships like a bird of prey. His squadron of 12 fighters had been practicing this exact scenario for months, waiting for the day when someone would discover one of their hidden bases. The battle lasted exactly 4 minutes. The Vorthak patrol ships were designed for exploration, not combat. They had light weapons and weak shields, no match for the advanced human fighters. Junsu's squadron destroyed 3 ships completely and disabled the 4th, but not before it had sent part of its emergency message. "Base Command, this is Phoenix Wing," Junsu reported as he flew back toward Ghost Base 12. 4 enemy ships neutralized, but one got off a partial transmission. "They know we're here." On the base, Alarms were already sounding. Commander Jinho stood in the command center, watching as his staff prepared for what they all knew was coming. The secret was out. After months of hiding in the shadows, humanity's survival had been discovered. Estimated time until Vorthak response. Jinho asked his intelligence officer. 6 hours, sir. Maybe less if Admiral Thorn comes himself. Jinho nodded grimly. Kale Thorn was the Vorthak commander who had destroyed Earth. If he learned that humans were still alive, he would bring everything he had to finish the job. Signal all ghost bases, Jinho ordered. Operation Revelation is now active. It's time to show them what we've been building. 6 hours later, space around Ghost Base 12 filled with Vorthak warships. Admiral Kale Thorn had indeed come personally, bringing with him the largest war fleet in Vorthak history. Over 200 ships surrounded the asteroid field, their weapons pointed at the human base. Thorn stared at the impossible sight through his command ship's main viewer. The human base was real, clearly operational, and defended by weapon systems he did not recognize. His scarred face showed a mixture of rage and confusion. Open a communication channel, he ordered his crew. When the connection was established, Thorn's angry voice echoed through space. You're supposed to be extinct, he growled. We destroyed your world. We watched your species burn. The response came from Commander Jinho, appearing on Thorn's screen very much alive and completely calm. The human looked younger than Thorn had expected, but his dark eyes held the confidence of someone who had been preparing for this moment. Reports of our death were greatly exaggerated, Admiral, Jinho replied with a slight smile. Then something happened that made Thorn's blood turn cold. The space around the human base began to shimmer, like heat waves rising from hot pavement. One by one, human ships began to appear out of nothing. First dozens, then hundreds, materializing from every asteroid, every shadow, every empty patch of space. The human fleet was huge, far larger than anything Thorn had imagined possible. Advanced stealth technology had hidden them completely, making his own fleet appear small by comparison. Did you really think, Jinho continued, his voice carrying across the void, that the species that survived ice ages, plagues, and wars would fall so easily to you? In that moment, Admiral Thorn realized that humanity's death had been the greatest deception in galactic history. The final battle above Vorthak Prime began at dawn and lasted until the following midnight. The frozen homeworld of the Vorthak Empire had never seen such a massive space battle in its 3,000-year history. Two great fleets clashed in the darkness above the planet, their weapons lighting up the void like artificial stars. Admiral Sung Minute commanded the human fleet from the bridge of the Phoenix Rising, a massive carrier ship that had been built in secret during the months after Earth's destruction. At 66 years old, he had spent his entire life preparing for this moment. The ship was 10 times larger than any vessel the humans had possessed before, constructed from materials salvaged from abandoned alien worlds and powered by technology that the Vorthak Empire did not know existed. Around the Phoenix Rising, over 400 human ships moved in perfect formation. These were not the hidden raiders that had been attacking supply convoys for months. These were full warships, built for open battle and equipped with the most advanced weapons humanity had ever created. Each ship carried crews who had lost their homes when Earth burned, and who had spent every day since then preparing for this moment. The Vorthak fleet was larger, with over 600 ships defending their homeworld. But Admiral Kale Thorn quickly realized that numbers would not be enough. The human ships moved with a precision that his forces could not match. Their weapons were more accurate, their shields stronger, and their tactics unlike anything he had ever faced. Sir, we've lost the third battle group, reported Thorn's communications officer, his voice shaking with fear. The humans are cutting through our lines like we're not even there. Thorn watched through his ship's viewing screens as another formation of his vessels exploded under human fire. The battle was not going as he had expected. He had brought the largest war fleet in Vorthak history, enough ships to conquer most star systems. But the humans were fighting with a fury and skill that seemed impossible. They're not just fighting to win, he realized aloud. They're fighting for their entire species. As the hours passed, the Vorthak fleet began to fall apart. Ship after ship was destroyed or disabled by the precise human attacks. Thorn's once proud armada became scattered wreckage floating in the cold space above his homeworld. By the time the planet's sun set on the battle, less than 50 of his ships remained operational. Thorn sat in his command chair, surrounded by the ruins of his fleet. His bridge was dark, with only emergency lighting still functioning. Most of his crew was dead or wounded. Through the cracked viewing screen, he could see the human ships surrounding his vessel like predators circling wounded prey. He waited for the final attack that would destroy his ship and end his life. After what he had done to humanity, he expected no mercy. He had ordered the destruction of their entire planet and had celebrated their death across the galaxy. Now they had every right to return that favor. But the death blow never came. Instead, a calm female voice spoke across all communication frequencies, reaching every surviving Vorthak ship and every receiver on the planet below. "Admiral Thorn, this is Captain So Young of the human fleet," the voice said. "Humanity offers terms for your surrender." Thorn stared at his communication screen in shock. The human captain appeared before him, a woman in her 40s with short black hair and eyes that showed no hatred, only determination. "Terms?" Thorn said, his voice filled with disbelief. "You should destroy us. We tried to commit genocide against your entire species. We burned your world and celebrated your death." Captain So Young's expression did not change. Her voice remained steady and calm when she replied. "Yes, you did," she said. "But we died as victims and have returned as teachers. The galaxy has seen enough death, Admiral. It's time for something better." On the surface of Vorthak Prime, in the great assembly hall where the planet's leaders made their most important decisions, an impossible scene was taking place. Commander Jinho stood at the center of the chamber, surrounded by representatives from dozens of alien species who had come to witness what many believed would be humanity's revenge. The hall was ancient, carved from ice and stone thousands of years ago. Its walls had witnessed the rise of the Vorthak Empire and the conquest of many worlds. Now they were about to witness something that no one had expected. Jinho was younger than most of the alien leaders, but he carried himself with the confidence of someone who had survived the impossible. His human appearance was strange to the assembled aliens, most of whom had never seen a member of his species in person. To them, humans had been nothing more than stories and propaganda broadcasts. "Representatives of the galaxy," Jinho began, his words being broadcast to every world in the sector through quantum transmission networks. 3 months ago, humanity was declared dead. Our world was destroyed, our people scattered, our civilization erased from the stars. He paused, looking around the chamber at faces that showed confusion, fear, and curiosity. "Today, we declare something greater than revenge," he continued. "We declare the birth of a new age. Not built on conquest and fear, but on cooperation and understanding." In the back of the assembly hall, Engineering Officer Ha Young stood with other members of the human fleet. She had helped build many of the ships that had won the battle above. As she watched Jinho address the galaxy's leaders, she whispered to the officer standing beside her. "From our supposed end," she said quietly, "we wrote the galaxy's new beginning." Across the chamber, alien leaders who had been enemies for centuries began to listen to words they had never expected to hear. And in the darkness of space above, former enemies began to consider the possibility of a different kind of future.